What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a new found footage movie that I watched on Tubi that I saw some people talking about online in one of the found footage groups that I'm in. And I'm always willing to check out indie found footage movies. I found a lot of gems over the years that not a lot of people have talked about. And so whenever I see people talking about one online, I'm always willing to give it a chance because, like I said, making movies is really hard and it can be incredibly difficult. And so I always respect when people go in and try to create something and build this world with what little they have to work with. And the movie I want to be telling you about today is The Last Cabin. Last Cabin is directed by Brendan Rudnicki. Trapped in a remote cabin, a film crew finds themselves stalked by three masked men who know the isolated forest in their every move. So I was really looking forward to watching this movie. Like I said, I'm a huge found footage fan, so I always really get excited to watch found footage and just to try to take it in and appreciate it as much as possible. And unfortunately, this is one of the worst movies that I've watched all year long. This is one of the most predictable, just kind of like there's no originality here. I feel like everything about this movie is pulling from a found footage movie or some kind of horror film that already exists. There's one scene in particular in this movie that felt like they were trying to replicate a scene from the film Sinister. And I feel like the structure of the film is really what makes it so miserable to watch. It's not interesting. The way they introduce you to this group of characters, you're kind of like, okay, I get the idea of what they're trying to do, but none of it really makes sense. Like the timeline of how things are working. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I break the movie down. So, in The Last Cabin, we're introduced to this group of characters who, for some reason that's kind of convoluted, they're searching for a cabin to shoot some kind of movie at. And they're talking about it a lot at the beginning of the film, but you don't really get like a concise explanation. It's kind of like you're piecing together what's going on, and they're just sort of driving through the woods to find a place to film. And they eventually get to this cabin, and the doors open, and they go in there, and it just so happens that the guy who owns the property is in there, and they manage to convince him to use the property for their filming by paying him cash. And he decides to tell them while they're inside that the all the cabins in this area are newly built, and that a lot of the lower income residents were ran out of the community, and they weren't very happy about it when that was going on. And you're like, okay, we saw this little clip at the beginning of these people running around in masks, and they're probably going to show up and try to kill these people. And that's exactly what happens. A group of three people and these masks show up around the house and start terrorizing this film crew. And the film is the film crew trying to survive these three masked lunatics. So, like I said, this movie's really terrible. And honestly, I don't have a lot of positives other than I liked the look of the masks in this. I thought that they were genuinely creepy. There was a lot of attention to detail and how those looked, and that was something that I really liked. Everything else about this is a mess. For starters, I talk about so many low budget movies on here. The acting in this was horrible. Like, honestly, it just felt like the reactions to people seeing horrifying situations was completely and totally unbelievable. Like, you gotta at least, like, even if you're using friends or people that aren't trained actors, you've got to get some form of realistic emotion. Even when they were like buddying around, there were so many moments that it felt like someone who didn't memorize their lines very well and that they were trying to remember what they were supposed to say. And just the delivery was so flat and unenthusiastic that it was really hard to attach yourself onto any of the characters because of how poorly written the dialogue was and because of just how not well trained these actors are. And that's sometimes it's all you have to work with, but I feel like here that was just really lacking in that department. I hated the way this thing was shot. It's a found footage movie. It's gonna have shaky cam. It's gonna have things of that nature. But there was like these shots with like a flashlight pointing at things, and I really just didn't like it aesthetically. Visually, it was not very pleasing, and I feel like it was difficult to kind of settle in and adjust to that. And I'm sure that that's pulled from something that's already existed before. I think there was something similar in Sinister, and I'm going to reference that movie a lot because I feel like there was one scene in particular that was kind of like trying to replicate a scene from that movie perfectly. But yeah, just the way this thing was shot and the pacing of it, it just takes forever. It's only an hour and 9 minutes long, and it really just kind of takes forever to get going. Like there's the intro scene that kind of gives you there's crazy people in the woods hunting you down down and trying to kill you. But like once we're introduced to the actual characters, just the build up and getting there, and like once you finally get there, it's just not that suspenseful or engaging or interesting, which is one of the reasons why I had a really hard time getting through this movie, is just because of how miserable that was. As far as like the kill scenes, they're working with a relatively low budget, so like there isn't anything like super spectacular visually here. There's a scene with a lawnmower in this movie that I felt like they tried really hard, but kind of the execution of the lawnmower being like knocked over somebody's head, it just looks kind of clunky. I think the idea was better than like how they pulled it off. Like in Sinister, one of the things that works well about that lawnmower scene is it's continuous. When it runs over the person's head, it happens in such quick manner that it's like shocking to you as a viewer. This, they like really take their time with it, and I don't know, there was something about it that I was just like, it's not seamless enough for it to come across as you not just like making it for a movie. And that's the case with a lot of moments in this surrounding the violence. I just didn't feel all that unsettled or uncomfortable about it. Something about like this movie felt really like The Strangers, you know, cabin in the woods, random people showing up to cause harm to others just cuz, or in this particular case, they're frustrated about the fact that these cabins were built up in their community. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like there were so many moments in this that were kind of just emulating things that already exist in a much worse way. And it's upsetting because, like I said before, it's hard to make a movie, and found footage is one of the easiest things to make because you don't need a ton of budget and you can typically make something incredibly effective. But in this case, it's just not. It's really bland. I felt like it felt way longer than an hour and 9 minutes. Maybe it was just because I was bored out of my mind, but I kept trying to like reinvest myself, and I had such a hard time. I was just like completely and totally pulled out of it. It's just not a very good movie, and I would not recommend checking it out because of how poorly put together it was. So, have you seen The Last Cabin? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was terrible, unfortunately. Just a really miserable slog to get through. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.